Have you ever heard the old saying, if he can do it, anybody can? Well, I think that's what Inventables had in mind when they thought of me and saw my videos, because I never dreamed in a million years that they would want to send me an X-Carve. Well, they did. I was hesitant at first. I was very intimidated when I opened up the box. But I tell you, once you get into it, it is very amazing of the step-by-step process, the packaging down to the cutting. It's just phenomenal. So I'm going to take you a little journey through what I've been doing the last few weeks, getting the X-Carve up and running. Hope you enjoy it. So when you unbox the X-Carve, this is basic components of everything that you need to be able to put this together. It's very well packaged. Everything is separated by labels and codes. So if you can follow the directions, just start with the first and go all the way through. All you have to do is look at the box or the package and you can go right to it to be able to start the assembly of your X-Carve. The first thing you want to do is make sure you read the instructions on the Inventables website and go through all of the parts that are listed to be able to put together each component as it's instructed. And the easiest way I've come up with to be able to do this is to get everything out in one box, go through the instructions as far as what I need to put together each component, and lay them out beside the label of what it is. Make sure you close the bag back so you don't lose any parts. But these are all of the items I need for the first components. This other we're going to set to the side, leave them zipped up, and we'll come back to them later for different assemblies. I'm not going to go step by step on how I put this together, simply because Inventables has an incredible instruction video on how to do this. It gives you great instructions written and in video. So I'm going to assemble this and go to the next step. Once all your parts now are gone, you followed the instructions and everything is in place, then you know you pretty much done everything right. The instructions are incredible on how they do step by step with the video. And just as the instructions say, just follow it step by step and you'll be able to get through this relatively easy, just following the instructions and the video guide. Again, follow each step in line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like you should, and you shouldn't have any issues. Again, only pulling out the parts that you need by count on the instruction list, and then follow the instructions by either reading or the video, which I love the videos. One important part whenever you're using the self-tapping screws is to lubricate the screw itself. An oil or a WD-40 would work. And you put the orientation as instructed in the video. If the rails don't slide in easily, make sure you check the eccentric nuts on the bottom to make sure they're not over tightened. That should make them slide in a lot easier. When going through the instructions on the website watching the videos only cover the 500 millimeter X-Carve. Make sure that you're following the instructions. It gives you step by step for the 1000 millimeter also, because you're going to need different belt sizes cut. You're going to need different sizes for different things. So make sure that you're looking at the right X-Carve that you received. One thing I wish I would have done was use connectors on this instead of straight wiring it like the instructions say, which it works fine straight wiring it, but I ran into some problems where the wires came loose from the screw, and if you had a connector to that wire and then screw it in, you wouldn't have that issue. So I did have one wire come off the Y-axis, I had one wire come off of the Z-axis. So it kind of slowed me down in getting it starting because I had to hunt and find what the issue was. But that was my fault. It wasn't the instructions' fault. So I think connectors would be a better route than straight wiring. On the stepper cables, you want to make sure you don't cut into the wires on the inside. You're going to take the cover off. You'll have a little aluminum foil and a ground wire. Peel all that off, and then you can trim off the ends to be able to use the stepper cables to connect to all of your Y, X, and Z axes. A great tip they give whenever your wires are going through the drive chain, tape up the end that's going to be going through and double check, triple check, make sure that the drive chain is going to hook up correctly before you run it through, or you'll wind up having to pull the wires out, flip the drive chain over, and do it again. So just look at the orientation and you'll get it right. It was at this point where my nerves really started to kick in. This was the scariest part of the whole assembly to me. But honestly, once I followed the instructions as it said, this honestly was the easiest part. Putting the Arduino in and the G Shield, more or less the mother brain of the operation, It was really self-explanatory and very easy to do. Now, I did skip one part as far as the limit switches. I did not put the limit switches on there, so if you do decide to put limit switches, you will have to have some soldering done. That's the only reason I didn't choose to do limit switches. I did not want to mess up the board. I may go back to that and add those later on because I do have those. I just scared myself out of doing it. But assembling it, it was fairly easy. You just follow the instructions. Once you've identified the X, Y, and Z cables from the stepper cables, it's very simple from that point. You're just going to take each one individually and wire it as it's instructed. The cool thing is each one is labeled on the board which one goes where. So once you determine the cable, you just wire it into the board. Now we're going to place the G-Shield on the Arduino. The pins on the bottom will line up with the Arduino in the case you've already inserted. So just line it up. Once you have everything hooked up, wired, ready to go, you can go to Easel, which is an Inventables software program to be able to add designs to your woodworking. This is a very user-friendly program. It's free. You just go to Inventables, you can get the Easel, download it now and play around with it just to see some of the different things you can do. You can also upload files from the SVG files to be able to carve out of that as well. It makes you no less than a woodworker to have a 3D carver. All it does is enhance what you build and give more details. You can do inlays. There's a lot more options on the table with a 3D carver.